Thank you.
Well, good morning and welcome to the June 13, 2019 meeting of the Campaign Finance Board. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from our May 16, 2019 meeting. I move the approval of those minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is the report of the chair. So I'm happy to announce that the CFB has launched a 5-borough tour to provide training opportunities in each borough for anyone who wants to get involved in a city campaign. The 2021 election cycle will usher a new wave of leadership into New York City government. The mayor's office, controller, all 5 borough presidencies, and 2/3 of the city council districts will have open seat races because term limits prevent the incumbent from running for re-election. This presents a perfect opportunity for city residents who have been considering a run for office, especially since the matching funds program makes running a competitive campaign much easier. While the election may seem far away for voters, the best time for prospective candidates to start working towards the 2021 goal is right now. Many people have either thought about running for office at one point or another. This 5-borough tour is a great opportunity to learn more about what it takes to get started. Already over 100 people have signed up for one of these sessions. We held our first event in Queens this past weekend, which was well attended. Our next stop will be the Brooklyn Public Library's Eastern Parkway branch on Saturday, June 22nd. You can find more information and RSVP by visiting our website. I'm also pleased to announce that the board provided more public funding to candidates in the recently completed special election for Council District 45 than in any previous special election for a city council seat. Of the 8 candidates on the ballot on May 14th, 6 received matching funds payments totaling more than $750,000. 5 of the 6 candidates to receive public funds were first-time candidates, including the victor, Farah Lewis. This is yet further evidence, following the public advocate special election in February, that the enhancements to our matching funds program adopted by more than 1 million voters in November will provide more public financing resources to candidates for city office. That means more candidates should feel empowered to run with small dollar funding, leading to more choices on the ballot for voters. I now turn to our Voter Assistant Advisory Committee Chair, Naomi Zouderer, for her report.
Thank you, Chair Schaefer. On June 25th, city voters will be heading to the polls for primary elections. This will be a particularly important election for voters in Queens, where there is a high-profile race for district attorney underway. In Brooklyn, voters will again cast ballots for City Council in District 45. Some of the candidates who appeared on the ballot in the May special election, just mentioned by the chair, are campaigning actively in this race as well. Down ballot, voters throughout the city may find primaries for judicial offices and party positions. Fortunately, for anyone wanting more information about these races, our voter guide is here to help. Our online guide provides profile information for candidates in the district attorney and city council races and lists the names of all candidates for the other races as well. A print guide to the City Council District 45 has been mailed to all registered eligible voters living in the district. It will begin arriving this week. To read the voter guide and find your poll site information, visit voting.nyc today. Last night, we held the annual hearing to review the voter analysis report. We discussed the report and our work to engage New Yorkers in the 2018 elections with a range of city voters, community partners, and other stakeholders. We also explored some of the recent legislative changes that will make it easier to vote in New York City, including an update on early voting implementation. I want to thank everyone who attended the hearing for their contributions to making the work of NYC Votes stronger. And with that, I will turn it over to Executive Director Amy Loprest.
I'll just be brief. I just want to point out that this Friday is another disclosure statement deadline for the election that's happening in June. The City Council will be taking up legislation to make some changes to the program tomorrow or today. I keep forgetting what day of the week it is, sorry. And I just want to also commend on the 5-borough tour that the chair mentioned. It was incredibly well attended, the Queen's session. 45 people attended that session, which is, very encouraging, the first one. And I just want to commend Hannah Egerton, who from our Canada Guidance and Policy Unit, who spearheaded the entire 5-borough tour campaign. So thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the announcement of campaigns and compliance. The following candidates from the 2017 elections have completed the post-election audit process without any violations and penalties assessed by the Campaign Finance Board. The board recognizes the diligence of the candidates and their campaign staff in running campaigns that maintained compliance with New York City's campaign finance law. Of these campaigns, three of the first 4 are first-time candidates with the CFB. Those candidates, all for City Council, were Patrick Bobolin, Kevin Peter Carroll, Hyman Drusen, and Helen Rosenthal. We congratulate them and their staffs. The next item in our agenda involves a candidate appearance with respect to proposed penalties. The candidate is Todd Stevens. So, Mr. Stevens, if you and/or your representative would have a seat at the table, CFB attorney and staff in your usual places. Just a quick description of our very simple procedure. We'll ask the CFB attorney to make a brief opening statement in which he really just tees up for us all what the issue is, not really an extended argument. The floor will then be yours to make whatever arguments you wish to make. If CFB staff wishes to respond, they can respond. If necessary, we can go back and forth more than once. And then when everybody has said all that needs to be said, and there may be some questions from us, we'll go into deliberations and then report back on our decision. So.
Good morning, Chair Schaefer, members of the board, Executive Director Loprest, Mr. and Ms. Stevens. My name is Joseph Gallagher, Associate Counsel for the CFB, and appearing with me today is Celia Liang, an auditor for the CFB. Before the board this morning is the matter of Todd Stevens' campaign in the 2017 A election for City Council in District 9. The campaign was a participant in the program and received public funds. CFB staff recommends that the board find the campaign committed 2 violations of the Act and board rules in failing to file pre-election disclosure statements and failing to respond to the initial documentation request. CFB staff further recommends the board find the campaign must repay public funds. The campaign contests the violations and penalties and repayment obligation.
Okay, the floor is yours, Mr. Stevens.
You could just turn on your mic.
Yes, I would like Mr. Gallagher, if you could repeat as far as, I believe we're well versed as far as what this is related to, but you just mentioned IDR?
The initial documentation request.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the confusion was the ADR, the IDR, right?
The IDR with the disclosure statement for.
I see. Okay, so we'll begin then. I'm sorry. So am I in okay form? My name is Todd Stevens. I have 17 years selling and renting homes in Harlem. I'm very inexperienced in the political process. So I'm here today with my wife, Rachel Stevens, and she was designated as treasurer as just as a means to be more involved in the campaign. We started off hiring a seasoned professional with past experience in the city of New York, past experience in the state of New York, and past experience with national campaigns. We had a full campaign staff. Our primary contact with CFB was Samantha Perez, ongoing, and then we also correspond with Shazia Karami and John Tupin of the state of New York. My purpose at this moment is just to, I guess, provide an introduction, and then my wife will speak on the emails, and then I will fill in wherever she may have missed. So we're trying to make this as efficient as possible. So our I guess our theme or our focus for this morning is where when we have very, very inexperienced people running in politics in the city of New York, and we have the grace and courtesy of the city of New York providing millions of dollars to these campaigns. And so therefore those inexperienced people, they're relying on their campaign staff or they're relying on the officials at CFB. And the kind of conclusion that we'll ask ourselves is, if the candidate is kind of inquiring and re-inquiring and inquiring and then receiving approval on an extension, how is it possible that that candidate be so well versed to ask a fourth time and a fifth time and a sixth time, as far as like what does that approval mean? I'd like to also just have everyone consider, I've discussed with Hannah about the importance of having preferred recommended campaign managers, maybe a list of 100 people, 200 people, a very long list, that people like myself who are extremely inexperienced can at least select someone who has a proven experience with CFB, where CFB has a positive memory of that campaign professional. And I think that will be enormously helpful in the future, and maybe we'll have much less need for these kinds of meetings. Because what happened for us, we heavily relied on campaign professionals. Things were not always in sync as they should have been. And when we desired to have their assistance, after the campaign concluded. We were told that we would have one person's assistance. But the dilemma was that one of the lesser experienced people, still with a few more years experience than us, she demanded that we pay her double, triple, or quadruple. I can't remember the amount that she was paid during the campaign. I believe it was a minimum triple. Yes, I promise. She demanded this upon us. She demanded an office. She placed many demands upon us after we were told at our last day together that we would have her assist us, happily pay her, everything would be great. So at least we'd have someone ongoing assist us. So we didn't have, I thought it would be criminal for me to pay someone triple the amount that CFB had already approved, right? I thought it'd be really wrong of me to have her assist us if it's triple the pay that was already authorized on an hourly basis. So my wife is hinting that I might be talking too much. But so basically but the focus today is we have a $7,000+ penalty for a late charge, and then other smaller penalties that may be more relevant to our minds. But we'd like to very focus much on the this more than $7,000 late fee for something that we thought we clearly had written approval from a very seasoned professional employed by CFB before we took our 5-week family vacation. So I will let my wife take over for now, and then I'll return and try to fill in anywhere that was left undone.
Yes, and I'm Rachel Stevens, treasurer of the campaign and wife of Todd Stevens, as you mentioned. Just a little bit of background on us. My husband's been in Harlem for 17 years. He's been actively involved in community service, especially with the group for the past 10 to 12 years, MIPCA.
Yes, I've done 2,000 hours of volunteer service
he's
in
very
Harlem.
involved in the community. So we had this exciting opportunity with the special election to be more involved. And sadly, we learned that is not as...
It's a whole different dimension than community service. Right?
Yes, exactly. And it's not as explained. So what we're first addressing today, as my husband said, was the penalty of failing to respond to the initial documentation request. So what I wanted to go over, we had initially submitted some emails showing our extension on this. And so I wanted to go through the more emails that we had. So I'm going to read all of these. So please.
If you could bear with us, we're going to read through a few emails. Thank you.
Yeah, so as Todd mentioned, Samantha Perez was our primary contact with CFB. And this was our initial email to her regarding this extension. So I said on Wednesday, May 31st, Dear Samantha, we're nervous we will be unable to facilitate CFB requests from June 22nd through July 30th. We'd like to be proactive in remedying any items. The post-election link does not provide a solution. Please guide us as to whom we can speak with within the audit department, their phone number, or what we need to do for the purpose of postponing a review until August if we are unable to speak with the audit department this week. And that's from Todd Stevens. Later, very soon after, Samantha responded and said, Mr. Stevens, you can reach out to the campaign's auditor, Shazia Karami. I can't remember.
Shazia Karami. This is 20 minutes after we write to Samantha.
So she gets back to us and, you can reach out to Shazia, who may be able to provide you with a better estimate of when the campaign should expect an initial documentation request. She can be contacted at, she gives us her email or phone number. And so that was on Wednesday, May 31st. And so on Friday, June 2nd, Todd reaches out to Shazia. Dear Shazia, my name is Todd Stevens, and I received your information from Samantha Perez. I believe we met this January in Harlem. I provided a voicemail yesterday, Thursday, so we'd already tried calling her. My wife, Rachel Stevens, has diligently worked to ready everything for our audit. We were wary we will be able to unable to facilitate.
We're both nervous. Sorry.
CFB requests from June 22nd through July 30th, as we will be in California with family. So we'd like to be proactive in remedying any items, plural, remedying any items. The post-election link does not provide a solution. Please guide us as to whom we can speak with to begin our process with the audit department, the best phone number, what we need to do for the purpose of postponing a review until August. And so this was written to Shazia. And that was on June 2nd. So June 8th, we hadn't heard back from her. Todd writes her again, good afternoon. I'm recontacting in hopes to seek what is needed for us to take care of any items before we depart. So we were definitely wanting
and
to...
it says, please share with us what we need to do. So we're constantly throughout the campaign.
Any items.
Please guide us. Please share.
Right. Any items, what we need to do. So that was June 8th. And then I wrote her on June 20th. Good morning, Shazia. Todd and I still need to be in contact before we depart from New York City to California. Will you please call me at XYZ, send me the best phone number to reach you so we best discuss our situation. So we'd first, we'd first tried to contact her June 2nd. I guess June 1st because Todd had called the day before, and then again June 8th, and then again June 20th, which was approaching our departure date. So she writes us back on June 20th, later that day, that I had written her. Good afternoon. I hope all is well and sorry for the late response. You should receive the initial documentation request, IDR, by Friday, June 23rd. Since you will be out of town, I can grant you an extension on your response. Please let me know if there are any further questions. And so she didn't reference disclosure statement 4. We had given her this, we'd said, what can we do for these audit preparations? And, she said, I can grant you an extension on your response. So we had been trying to get response for any kind of extension, and we were granted an extension. So Todd wrote back on June 27th, thank you very much for your email. Could we have an extension until August 10th? So she said, I can do that. She didn't give us a date. So
Right, there was no date, so I just recontacted.
yeah, could we have an extension to August 10th? We will be away for almost all of July and want to be certain we do not make any errors. Sincerely, Todd. And so Shazia writes back a few days later, good afternoon, Todd. I can grant you an extension until Monday, August 14th. Enjoy your vacation, and please let me know if you have any further questions. So that was Friday, June 30th. And then, okay. So she writes back June 14th. She can, June 30th, that she can extend it to August 14th. And then up here.
So we're following up on Monday, August 14th.
Yeah, we're following up on Monday, August 14th.
And we're so thankful that we were provided this extension. And
Yes.
So go ahead.
So I say, Dear Shazia, thank you for your, this is from Todd. Dear Shazia, thank you for your kindness and courtesy in relation to our well-needed extension. While we were in California with family, we submitted our updates to the CFB database. So we'd come home, we'd uploaded everything that we thought we were supposed to. We're ready and available to coordinate and welcome our CFB audit. Would we have you visiting on your own? Excuse me, perhaps along with one other person. When is best for CFB to visit us? I have my wife and treasurer Rachel CC'd here. I'm here for you this morning until X amount of time. So we again are asking many questions.
Well, we're constantly asking for direction.
Exactly.
No, but in this period, because you've already gotten past a particular date that interests us, the records indicate that on June 27th, the staff of the CFB actually sent you the initial document request itself.
Right, and we have some emails from Samantha about that.
Go ahead.
Then, as you correctly point out, there's no dispute. You were granted until August 14th to respond to that initial document request. It's now August 14th. You're quoting from an email of that date. That was your deadline for responding to the initial document request. I take it there's no dispute you did not respond to the initial document request on or before August 14th. Is that correct?
I thought what we had just said is that we uploaded all of the necessary items and
Right,
that we
and
did
this is where
follow
we-
through and respond.
We
and do
understood the disclosure statement 4 and the initial documentation request to be part of the same.
Part of the same element, yes.
You thought that you were only required to give the disclosure statement?
No, but
Just
when-
confused about
Yes,
your
we
positions.
yes, because we're so unseasoned in this, we kept asking about what
You
we need to do.
received-
And
you
so
received-
disclose,
Oh,
yes,
let
but,
me speak.
okay.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead, sir.
I'm just confused because you received on June 27th something with a list of all the things that had to be produced.
Yes.
Yes,
And it told you that this was required.
Yes.
And that told you that failing to respond is a serious violation.
Yes.
So you understood all of that.
We
well, no,
understand-
let me. So what we understood is that we already received this gracious extension until mid-August, August
Correct. So
14th,
you had- so-
on everything. Because we had contacted city officials multiple times.
Everybody agrees that you did not have to respond until August 14th.
Wait, there's an ambiguity there.
Well-
Exactly.
There's a disclosure statement, which the CFP's position is you could not get an extension, and you did not get an extension. Since the penalty for that is $100, let's just sort of put that to the side for
No,
a moment.
sorry, Chair, that penalty is not recommended at all for
No,
disclosure
penalty's
statement
not
for.
recommended at all. So we'll just write that off to a misunderstanding. But at the same time, you get a document which says, an initial document request says, we need
Yes.
all this stuff.
Yes.
The initial due date was July 27th. We're
Yes.
going to give you to August 14th.
Yes.
You know that.
Yes.
On or before August 14th, you did not respond to that IDR.
We uploaded everything that we were
You
supposed to upload.
uploaded stuff relating to the disclosure statement.
Right, and this is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this
Yeah,
is
no,
exactly
that's
where
where I
the
wanted you to go.
ambiguity goes, is that we understood what we were uploading all to be part of the same element, as my husband
Well,
said.
facilitating the needs of everything that was requested.
Right,
both
so the
IDR
disclosure
and-
statement, so from what I understand, we knew that we had this extension, so on the 14th, by the 14th, we made sure everything was, we gathered a lot of information and uploaded everything that we could. We really thought that all our, I's were dotted and T's were crossed with this. And then in the aftermath of sorting all of this out, that's where we understood that the disclosure statement number 4 and the IDR were not of the same.
Well, let me
No,
ask
that-
you a
well,
question, and let me ask you a question,
Okay, go
because when you got the June 27th,
Mhm.
and it included exactly what, a list of what had to be provided.
Yes.
So did you look at that list to see what it was that was required?
Well, as far as August 14th, we looked at that email and we looked at all the communications and did to our best to provide everything by August 14th. What we believe is the reason we're here today, our understanding of all of this, which could be a vast misunderstanding, but our understanding of all this is that we're here today because, so on our side, we received all of our extensions for August 14th, and that we believe this was a luxury and a wonderful thing that we could, wait till August 14th to facilitate all requests, and so we did so. And our understanding in the CFB, as far as Campaign Finance Board, is that while we would, I apologize, but we would disagree with the conclusion. Our understanding is that it's Campaign Finance Board's belief that, well, even though we provided you an extension and you repeatedly asked us for guidance and so forth, even though we provided you an extension, that you, Todd Stevens, Rachel Stevens, were still supposed to respond to this June 27th email by XYZ deadline in July.
That's not the position.
That's not the position.
not the position.
And the issue-
Let's be clear.
Well, now I'm very
Yeah,
lost.
so
But
bearing in mind that in your mind, you were not clearly distinguishing between the final disclosure statement and the initial
Documentation request.
documentation request. And in your mind, the extension applied to both. We're going to accept that as a given for a moment. The fact is that they ask for different things. So the final disclosure statement asks for a certain set of documents, which apparently you did upload on August 14th. The IDR asks for a different and more extensive set of documentation, which you did not submit on August 14th. I don't think there's any dispute
Right,
about
and
it.
that wasn't
If you
submitted because
sit-
we.
let him finish.
I'm sorry.
If you sit and compare what the two things require, with the benefit of hindsight, I think you will agree that what you uploaded on August 14th was not what was being requested in the IDR. And so the CFB staff's position is you, in effect, not in effect, you did not comply with the deadline of August 14th, not the earlier deadline, August 14th, in responding to the IDR because you didn't respond to the IDR. You only responded
The disclosure statement
or
form.
submitted information relevant to the final document request. And
Final
that therefore,
disclosure statement.
what?
Final disclosure.
Disclosure statement. Sorry. And therefore, you're in violation, and the penalty is based on the failure to respond to the IDR on or before August 14th. So I just want to make clear that that's the CFB staff's position.
But well, okay, but what? No, let me.
understand.
Yeah, no, all we've heard so many times that, and I apologize from you, honestly, Samantha Perez. We've heard so many times that that the $7,000 is because we concluded that everything was postponed until August 14th so that we could wait until August 14th and that our conclusion was wrong and therefore we're going to penalize you $7,000. So that is the only, let me finish. That is the only reason, as to put it so simple, why we believe that we're here today. And
The penalty notice?
What,
Excuse me.
I read
did
the
you
penalty notice. I haven't read it in the past month. But
No,
go
so
ahead.
the penalty notice says that we're failing to respond to the initial documentation request. So when we filed everything for disclosure statement 4, we understood that to be as well the initial documentation request. And I know you're shaking your head, but we were very unexperienced. This is why I know I'm speaking right now.
Different position.
I'm
hearing from you, a position is that you thought you were being responsive on August 14th to the initial document request
right,
by giving what you did in the disclosure statement.
right.
I'm hearing from you that you think the penalty was because you didn't file something on July 27th, which is not what the penalty
No, we
notice says.
both are unified in our belief that the reason we're here is because we were told we have an extension, and then we were told, no, you are wrong, Todd, you are wrong, Rachel. This extension was only related to one item, it wasn't related to the other item.
It's
And
not
therefore,
the pen- I don't know how you get that. Frank.
well, we've been going over this for no, do
Penalty
not,
notice is
please.
absolutely clear.
Right, well, how,
Let me finish.
okay, sir, it's been tough.
Penalty notice is absolutely clear
Mm-hmm.
that the penalty is
Penalty
because
is
you
'cause they
did
did
not
not
respond
respond.
on August 14th to the initial document request. You got an extension and you didn't respond. That's what it says in
Haven't
words
responded
of
at
one
all.
syllable. So I must say, I understand asking for sympathy and asking and say you're the new candidate and all of that. I'm perfectly prepared to accept, when I say accept it, to consider that when we consider this matter. But it just seems that I'm not following how you can look at this and say that you think that you were being penalized $7,000 because you filed something essentially on August 14th instead of July 27th.
Well, that's virtually what Samantha Perez put to us in writing. We have this in writing
Well,
from
and
her.
this is
that,
where-
no, let me, please.
What writing are you referring to?
Well, I'd have to scuffle through, and we can scuffle through. But in July, she wrote to us, "You're wrong," and here, no, you're wrong. Click on the link to see the big penalty. She didn't say big penalty, but click on the link. She wrote more professionally than this, but in kind of more layman's English, you're wrong. Click on this link to see this big penalty of $7,000 that you're going to pay because you're wrong. And it doesn't matter that we didn't communicate this correctly in June. You're wrong. And so we're going to charge you $7,000. Now, she wrote more professionally than this.
We
have this somewhere for sure.
well,
Let's focus on this right now. So where is that email from her?
Well, this is where she talks about how we hadn't filed the disclosure statement 4, confirm that your campaign is on
Well,
track.
sorry, what are you reading from?
Oh, I'm sorry, am I? Okay, this is an email from Samantha Perez on July 17th, where she talks about how we haven't filed disclosure statement number 4. So it,
Right.
I just want.
confirm your campaign is on track to file a timely disclosure statement. Please confirm back that you upload all the, upload contribution documentation directly to CSmart. She's explaining, okay, you need to file this disclosure statement. And so we wrote back to her and said, good evening, Shazia, kindly provide us an extension until August 14th as we are in Alaska. Again, understanding that the IDR and the DAR, or the disclosure statement 4 were of the same thing. And that was never clarified as we didn't understand that the complete difference in those two, which might sound very ignorant to some, but this is our first time doing it. We were trusting.
No, I understand, but where in that email does it say that you're going to be penalized
$7,000.
I'm looking.
So, okay, so then,
Do you have it?
no, because she writes back the next day. So she wrote us the day on July 17th. She wrote us
So
back.
they're asking for the email that
I know.
says where she sent the link. She said, "You guys are done. Here's the link."
Okay, yeah, I'm getting to that.
Well, okay. She wants to.
Okay, so she writes us back the next day after we told her, okay, we had this extension. She wrote back and said, I spoke with Shazia this afternoon. She confirmed that she provided the campaign with the extension to the initial documentation request, not disclosure statement 4, which was the first time that we really saw those two, like, okay, you got an extension for this, but not for that.
But
Yeah,
now,
but this-
at that moment, you understood that there were two different things in play: a document disclosure form and an initial document request.
Yes, but there's more. There's more.
All right,
So
keep going.
Yeah, and I won't even say that we 100% understood that. Okay, as of
stop, please. All right, we're gonna go to this email.
So-
no, please.
in mind of our extension, this is what that you said to
no,
her.
we have to go. Please, we're being streamlined.
I think I have the email that they're speaking of. It's Exhibit 9, page 1.
Okay, so on Wednesday, this is the most important email apparently of the day, of this morning for our session. So while we're in Alaska, remote, wherever we are, this is what we receive. So we thought we were just done on July 19th without any ability to correct anything. So thank you, Todd. Thank you from Samantha Perez. Todd, thank you for your response. Campaigns are required to file complete and timely disclosure statements per CFB rules.
On scheduled dates.
Please. All right, I'm going to restart. I don't want any interruption from anyone because this is $7,000. Well, for all of you, all right, please, including my wife, including everyone, please don't interrupt me for 60 seconds. Okay, again, I'm restarting. We're in Alaska, inexperienced, not knowing what in the world we're doing unless we're guided by CFB. Wednesday, July 19th, Samantha Perez writes with a CC with Shazia. Todd, thank you for your response. Campaigns are required to file complete and timely disclosure statements on scheduled dates per CFB rules 1-09 and 3-02. The deadline to submit disclosure statement number 4 was on July 17th, 2017. For further information on disclosure statement violations for failing to file or file late disclosure statements, please refer to Section B, Disclosure Statement Violations of the 2013 Penalty Guidelines. So as a very inexperienced person, we can only conclude that this is over. We're going to get this big fine and nobody at CFB cares about, let me finish my sentence, that nobody at CFB cares. We're just I'm not saying this is how I feel right now, hopefully not, but I'm saying in July 19th, we're in Alaska. We get this email saying, you didn't do this. Here's the link to your penalty. That's it, right? It wasn't to say, oh, well, you can actually submit this on August 14th. Here's the link to the general penalty, but you can still submit this on August 14th. We were not told that. We were definitely not told that at that time.
and this is where it goes.
In the prior email, which was just read by your wife, it says, look, you got an extension for one, there are two issues here, and there's no extension for the
Disclosure statement number 4.
disclosure statement. In fact, we can't give one, but there is an extension for the other. So it distinguishes the two. And then when you write and say, we thought we were done, and they say, no, your disclosure statement was due on July 17th, and the failure to submit it subjects you to penalty.
Yes.
But that is not in any way relevant to the IDR. And in fact, you clearly understood that you were not through because on August 14th, you've told us that you uploaded information. Now, I understand you were not at that moment perhaps distinguishing in your minds between the two different requirements. But you obviously thought that you had to submit something more on August 14th. You did, but what you submitted was not responsive to the IDR. That is the basis for this penalty record.
Right, and so
And
we
let me just-
understood.
And let
I'm sorry,
Mr.
and
Davis.
let me just
add.
say also, the penalty that is being referred to there, if you look at it, is not the $7,000 penalty. The $7,000 penalty is the penalty for failure to the IDR. It's a much, much less. I mean, you have a $100 penalty for failure to file a disclosure statement. I'm not saying it would have been $100. It could have been more because it's on a per day basis.
Well,
but
at that point, it would be days late. So it was, 1 or 3 days, or what day was that? July 17th. So it was about 3 days late at that point. And the penalty, I think that's why she was referring to the guidelines, because they state in the guidelines, it's per day late. So it behooves you today to try to do disclosure statement 4.
which
And
has
so that
nothing
goes back
do
to where
with the
we-
IDR penalty, nothing to do with the $7,000.
Right, and this is where, when my husband said that we thought we were done, it meant we thought we were.
With this
we-
one
No, but-
subject matter, we
excuse me,
thought we were done.
that we
Yeah.
were done in the sense of we had our proper extensions. We understood.
Well, yeah, of course.
We understood all of this uploading to C-Smart, all of this information we were providing. We understood that to be applicable to both. We didn't understand the complete difference between the two, and that wasn't as it wasn't. We understood those to be
Okay,
the
but
two.
wait,
So that's because this is about how the penalty is due to the fact that we didn't file the submission documentation request. That's the penalty, and we understood the what we were uploading for the IDR and the disclosure statement for. We understood that information to be applicable to anything that that CFB needed. When you're like, okay, we have all this information here, take all of our information. We've spent hours on this. So we uploaded all of this information. We thought that it was applicable to anything that the CFB needed. We were happy to give any information. And so in our understanding, we were uploading everything that was needed for it.
I want to interrupt.
And so
let me interrupt. So basically, we're making our best effort, of course, on August 14th to facilitate everything. But from July until this very day, I swear to God, I'm not specialized in the campaign. I'm not specialized in what everyone here is specialized in, right? But I thought, because I haven't received clarification much besides that. I have thought that this large penalty was always due to the fact that that CFB said whatever they said to us, and we concluded that to be hallelujah. We have our extension to August 14th. And we submit everything August 14th. Now, August 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th. If someone says to us, oh, you're missing something. Of course, we'll just jump up and run down here or
right. Well,
upload.
This is where I'm interrupting my husband. Sorry,
please.
because we understood that everything because the penalty is because we did not file this IDR. That's the penalty.
On time.
No.
Rachel, please.
But
don't.
I think we understand your confusion.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily excuse it, but we understand that, and we also understand that each of you may have been confused in slightly different ways, and that's okay too. But at the end of the day, the fact is that there were a clear set of requirements. There were documents being asked for in the IDR that you didn't submit. And that is the basis of the penalty request. What I suggest you do, but it's up to you. If you want to continue along these lines, fine. But I think we've got your point about the confusion that you felt. I think it would be helpful if you address the size of the penalty as a kind of equitable issue and move away from the facts of what you thought at this moment in time or what misunderstanding you had with respect to that particular email.
Yes, I could follow what you said right now, and to say, I mean, sure, when Wells Fargo says here's a $100 fine because you missed a date, even though maybe I sent it on time, I don't talk with Wells Fargo for a whole 2 hours to battle the $100 fine. I just pay it, right? And I mean, I do pay my mortgage on time generally, but I'm just saying, yeah, if it's a $100 fine, which, $7,000 right now, if it's a $100 fine, whether she's wrong, he's wrong, she's right, I'm right, you're wrong, my wife's wrong, right? I'm not on a mission to take up 6-9 people, paid professionals' time, right? I mean, you're all being paid right now to listen to us.
We're not being paid.
Oh, I apologize. Are you serious? This is volunteer?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, I apologize for that.
That's okay.
No, I apologize the fact that you have to give all this time as well. All right. So anyway, well, now I have to process what I just said. But basically, yes. So you're 100% correct in the mindset of, or the rhythm of, like, oh my goodness, if it's like, darn, we were late, we'll pay the $100 fine and then we'll submit, something like that. But in the summer, all I'm thinking about is Samantha doesn't care what Shazia said. Samantha doesn't care what Samantha said. Nobody cares what about anybody said. We're going to be provided this big, heavy fine no matter what we do. Mm-hmm. That's all I've been thinking from July, like in my shock. We were in total shock in July.
So when we uploaded everything
So from July 2017 to today, when I'm seeing the 7,000 or whatever, how many thousands I've seen, I've always thought it's and then to connect with what Mr. Davis and Mr. Schaefer have said, to connect with what you've said about our deficiency on August 14th. I mean, I did everything I could to follow everything that was requested. It's possible that I already thought we were completely failed at this July 17th notice saying that you failed, and here's the link to your penalty and you failed. That's all I could conclude as well mentally, right? So my mental health was, while I'm aggressively putting everything together those few days. And every time I do want to say to everyone, like, as inexperienced people, every time we are trying to deal with a dilemma at that time, honestly, we spend like probably a minimum 30 minutes just figuring out what she's saying to us or what he's saying to us. And that probably makes sense, right? So nonetheless, I think, you've heard me now a few times, like, I have personally thought that the 7,000 is connected to this July notification. We were in total shock. We felt paralyzed. We didn't know what to do. And we did everything we could to facilitate the state government, city government, August 14th. And we had city and state approvals on extensions. And what we were obsessively thinking about, maybe in a bad way, is like, gosh, we're gonna get a $7,000 fine no matter what we do.
And so when we upload it goes down to that when we upload it, as naive as it may sound, that when we uploaded everything to C-Smart, we were understanding that was applicable to both the IDR and the disclosure statement for. Yes. That's what it comes down to.
We understand.
And so you're suggesting that we
said to focus on the amount.
Right, because when it comes down to it, we didn't respond to the IDR. And our understanding, we did respond to it because we understood it to be applicable to everything that we uploaded to C-Smart.
I have a question for the staff. When was the first follow-up notice sent after August 14th?
Yeah, I see that there was an email on November 14th about the upcoming draft audit report, and it stated that there was no response to the initial documentation request. But I'm wondering if there was anything before that.
I don't believe so. So I think after the deadline passed, the August 14th deadline passed, what happens in the audit unit is depending on where they are in their workflow, they will begin to prepare the draft audit report based on the existing documentation we've already received. So there are times when campaigns reach out in that interim and say, we know we didn't respond to the IDR, or what should we expect next? And it's the draft audit report. So it's really just staff going over everything they have. And it is arduous because you're dealing with no documentation.
There's no follow-up a week after, 2 weeks after, to say, their deadline is passed.
Doesn't
No.
a letter go out telling about the tolling of the deadlines?
I have to check. Yeah, it sounds like or mass mailing to candidates that haven't filed yet.
No, but that because there's a deadline to do the audit, and when people don't respond, our deadline for complete the audit is
yes,
told, and
yeah.
a letter is sent, a notice is sent telling the campaign that we haven't received it and that the deadline is told. So that would have been sent before
right.
November 14th.
That's right. Yeah, and
Do we know
wouldn't be
when-
Do we
reflected.
know when that was sent?
I probably have to check it because I don't have the mass. I just have the contact records, which reflects emails, but not mass mailings that go to the campaigns.
This is a little bit of inside baseball, so let me translate for you all what's on our mind. So you missed the deadline on August 14th. You thought you had made it, but
Yes.
you didn't because you submitted documents relevant to the disclosure statement.
Right, and we
but not
understood
the
that to be.
IDR. The reason this is important to the CFB is they rely upon responses to the IDR to conduct their audit. In the absence of a response to the IDR, they're required to try to do an audit without adequate documentation, which is burdensome. And it's why it's a sanctionable offense not to respond to the IDR. When they do their audit, they're subject to certain deadlines. And so what normally goes out, presumably you would have received it all, I'm not at all sure you would have understood it, was a notice that says, because you didn't respond to the IDR, our normal deadline for completing the audit is told because we don't have the documentation to do a proper audit. It's going to take us a little bit more time to sort this out. So that's what was being referred to in the colloquy that just took place. It is some evidence that you would have known, if you had read it correctly, that you had failed to respond to the IDR. But it still does not address your point, which we all understand now, about your misunderstanding and confusion about the two things that you were responding to. Frankly, I'm not sure we're getting any further along.
I have something to add to Ms. Lopresti's.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to sum up or finish up.
And I have one last
But
question.
okay,
Last question is, I just want to, you said what you did for a living at the beginning. Can you describe it? What do you do?
I've sold and rented 550 homes in Harlem since 2002.
Real estate program.
real estate broker. Okay. Would you like to finish up either or both of you with a
Yeah, well, we certainly.
Can we pause and
well,
talk
let
to each
me.
other before we?
No, why? There's
You,
no
you
reason.
can each sum up.
Okay, let's just, yeah, let me, okay, so because there was something Miss the press, you go by Miss, I don't want to be offensive. She did ask about, okay, well, were there any communications after this August 14th time? And the next communication was, I apologize, was myself reaching out to Shazia Karami again in polite manner, just to.
What date?
So I have her response is August 25th, and I'm not seeing my email, but I have her response is August 25th.
Okay.
And here we go. Okay, I apologize. So on Friday, August 25th. Sorry, I don't want to get everybody cross-eyed with this. So on Friday, August 25th, I'm writing to Shazia, will we have a compliance visit? And she said, are you referring to a compliance visit? And then I guess I said yes. And then she's saying to us on August 25th, well, we only require one compliance visit for a campaign. Unless there's an issue, then we would schedule a second compliance visit. Since your campaign already received a compliance visit, there weren't any major issues. We would not need to schedule a second compliance visit. And I write back to her, thank you, this is great news. We thought we were going, I mean, like I'm trying to be, positive and happy. We thought we were going to have an audit review, but we're inexperienced in that area. This was my first campaign. As it were, we were expecting to have this review. Thank you for being so responsive. So I'm bringing this up because she appropriately had said, okay, well, what was the next conversation? So this was the next conversation. So I do beg of everyone to consider, like,
What year is,
oh, this is all 2017.
that is, because
It's at 17.
Yeah.
it's not in here.
It might not have been reflected in the contact.
Right. I mean, I have it right here.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, that's fine.
but what we beg to consider is that, I think all of us, we're all different people, but I think we can all conclude that if we were told August 15th, 16th, 17th, Todd Rachel, you're missing something, we might penalize you with something, but if you could be sincere to just do your best to provide XYZ, your penalty would be reconsidered or something. I don't know.
Got it.
Yeah. So, but all I could think in my mind, well, A, we didn't have that follow up, and then B, while we're trying to be good, decent, law-abiding people on August 14th, like we're also thinking like, wow, we're going to be smacked with some huge penalty just because of this complete confusion. And before we conclude, we do have to review two other things that no, stop, please. Two other things that won't take more than 3 minutes, I think. I just want to state them and then you can speak. So as far as there's the $700, the $900, I guess $900 total.
Are we discussing that right now?
Well, they want,
Sure, if you would. I mean,
Yeah.
we can discuss anything you
I mean,
want.
she still wants to conclude about the previous subject matter.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, she'll conclude on that. And then what I'm promising is this next subject is very short. Okay.
Okay. So, yes, I think it's clear that when we uploaded everything by the August 14th, which we thought was our deadline for everything, we understood that we didn't need to file anything more. And again, when we reached out looking to see if there was anything else we needed, we were told that everything was okay. And so if we had been told, like, no, you're very naive, you did not file XYZ, we need these documents, like as much as it was, as much as we were supposed to understand, it was clear that we didn't because we hadn't filed it, right? We hadn't responded to it. And so I believe that if we were told directly, you did not file this, we need to file it, especially because we asked, like, what else would we need to do before this audit? So I guess that's the end of it, is that we understood them to be the same thing. And when we followed up to see if there was any more information, we were told that everything had been received.
Yes.
And so we were waiting because we knew that we'd have to do more work along the way.
Yes.
But that was never brought up again, the IDR.
Right. So,
Sorry.
okay, I apologize.
Okay.
I mean,
Can I just ask you a quick
Yeah.
question about
Yes.
that? So I understand that Shazia confused. I mean, she might not have, but she, in that email, she said that you didn't need a compliance visit. Did she say, I guess maybe if you had a copy of that email, that would be helpful probably.
if you
for the
could
board in the
make a copy, I
deliberation
guess,
to-
but
Is that where?
Because she obviously did not follow protocol and save that into our contact record system, which is, she's left the office.
Right.
So, but
That would be helpful.
I
Yeah,
think that would be
obviously.
helpful
I apologize. I don't want to
Mr.
create
Gallagher.
more of a mess than we already have. I'm looking for the other, like we have one portion. I don't want to waste your time.
if you just want to give us the whole package and we can photocopy
Wow.
it and then give you
There's
everything
too
back.
many.
Oh,
and we'll look for
it
know.
could cause you a headache if you look at
Kind of a
our
Rubik's
pile.
Cube right now.
Yeah, so we have, shoot, well, we could,
Maybe it's right here.
I mean, I can come up and show you this right now.
We
Oh,
were
what's that?
quite
No, no, no.
organized and
This
then-
is me.
Are you referring to a compliance visit?
Yeah, this is it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this is like, yeah, you can copy. This is not the full, but I mean, I think, again, all of us can conclude that there was a communication.
It's basically that one that
Yeah.
I think is that I just was thinking.
Right.
So
So,
that's the conclusion for me, is that we understood everything that we had uploaded to be applicable to both the IDR and the disclosure statement number 4. And when we tried to ask if there was anything more that we needed to do, we were told that basically that we'd filed everything that we needed to do.
right. And then
so-
we even followed up on, and I think the dilemma perhaps is, the sad comedy is if we included Samantha Perez on every single email, maybe we wouldn't be here. But I'm now seeing that on August 14th in the afternoon, and maybe this should be copied too, we're still reaching out to Shazia and CCing Sandeep Singh and asking, we were in California, we submitted all our updates, we're ready and available to coordinate the audit. And, so that's starting that conversation about the audit that we thought we would have. And then we resent the message again after August 14th. And so, we're kind of continuously saying, hey, is there something, where are we lost?
That in,
Okay.
I mean,
So-
you obviously pictured in your mind an audit process that involved a visit, when in fact that's not the way it works.
Right, and I think part of the problem or the disease is just thinking, oh well, Shazia is in her mid-career, she's been doing this for.
We go on to the other points.
Yeah, we're going to the other points, but
We're going around in circles.
yeah,
You wanted to address the public funds repayment?
Yes.
So let's do that briefly.
yes. So we're shuffling around too much, but now we have the $900 to discuss.
Let's go over what this type of public funds calculation. It says 909 and then 717. And so what are the
Let me interrupt.
recommended? So the recommended repayment is $909. And so of that $909, we want to know clarity about what.
Well, let me interrupt with this. So, because it says final bank balance. So we did close out the bank balance. My understanding is, because we were so nervous, we just theoretically kept the $700, not as a purpose
Yeah, we just kept the account open.
Right. Well, no, we closed the bank balance and we kept the $700, not as a purpose to, do anything manipulative. But so our ask is, so we have $909. Is $717? Is that of this $909? Can we conclude that? And then our other question is if we have the $5,000 and $6,000 that people are still seeking, and two professionals that truly did do work, if we pay the $900, do you the next day write checks to them for $5,000 and $6,000? I don't know what the expectation should be.
Let me add to that. So basically, the public funds that need to be paid are $909. And so the main question is that if that is paid or taken care of, then will those two vendors then receive their
That's what I just asked.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Got it.
It's the-
Joe, why don't you answer this?
Sure. So the qualified expenditure deficit, in order to pay the remaining two vendors, they would have to qualify an additional $11,000 to the deficit right now of $909. So those outstanding liabilities are already calculated in the qualified expenditure deficit as unqualified. So they would need to qualify an additional $11,000 to get up to that.
Why are
amount.
they unqualified?
Because they're not paid yet, because they're outstanding liabilities.
So what should they do to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, which is to pay back what they're supposed to pay back to the CFB of public funds, at the same time take care of these outstanding liabilities?
They would need to qualify the expenditures that in Exhibit 11 are yet to be qualified.
So
So
let me ask you a question. So if they just paid the vendor $909, it would wipe out then they would have nothing to pay back.
if they paid the vendor $909,
Based on what you just said. You said that the only reason they weren't qualified was because they hadn't been paid. That's what you just
or
said.
are they qualified already?
Right, but it sounds like they're looking for more public fund.
Well, they're not going to get more public funds unless there's something I don't know. But if the only reason, and this is very confusing to me, if the only reason that those payments, that those obligations to those vendors are unqualified is because they haven't been paid, then I don't think that makes much sense, because then you'd pay the $909 to them and then they wouldn't have paid to us. I'm confused.
So,
But aren't the vendors owed much more than that?
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but that's, we can't
Right.
print money.
Right, yeah.
What I'm saying, so they have unqualified expenditures to several vendors totaling, which leaves the qualified expenditure deficit, but they need to qualify those in order to erase the qualified expenditure deficit below the 11,000.
What?
The expenditures to New Direction Strategies.
Right.
They would need to provide timesheets and invoices that were consistent.
That's different. I thought you said that they were unqualified because they weren't paid.
That's the outstanding liabilities.
okay, so can I just
Yeah.
probably make this clear? After the election, you can only receive a post-election payment if you have documented outstanding liabilities. That's one criteria. The second criteria is that you've documented sufficient expenditures to show that you've spent the money that you've already received appropriately. That's what we're talking about as the qualifieds. That qualified expenditures, we send you a list of the things that you need to qualify. We tell you what you've qualified, what you haven't. You need, in order to get additional public funds, you not only have to qualify the 70,000 more odd public funds you've already received, but you also have to document more to get additional money to pay that outstanding liability. We sent you a list of all the expenditures that could be qualified. You provided documentation. You did not provide sufficient documentation for all to show that you spent all I'm going to get the number, all $72,056 that you received. You did not submit enough documentation. There's a deficit. That's
Right.
where that $909 comes from.
I understand.
Among those things that were not qualified are the two outstanding liabilities that, and they are not qualified for, not because they are unpaid, but because they are missing additional documentation. And that is clear in the report, that the missing documentation are robocall scripts and additional letter from the vendor that's more contemporaneous than the letter that you had sent before.
Sorry, that's correct. Not that they're unpaid.
And so in order to receive any additional public funds, not only would you have to document, you would have to document $909 of additional expenditures among the list of things that are not qualified on this document. But in order to get that additional, I think it's $11,000, you would have to document $11,000 more in qualified expenditures. That is already passed. I mean, that was sent to you as part of that was sent in the initial document request for those documentation. That was the subject of our previous conversation. That was sent to you in the draft audit response, the draft audit that was sent saying you should document, and it was sent again as part of this post-election enforcement process. And you, at that time, you had a much higher qualified deficit. We've sent a lot of documentation, and now the deficit has gone from that high number down to $909.
Right. And so what I was asking before is, of that $909, is the $717 the bank account?
Yes.
That's what I wanted
They're
to
two
clarify.
separate things. They
Yeah.
are two separate things.
Right,
So
so
if you gave the $717, that was the bank account, you would only owe $200.
Right.
So
And so
I'm not
of
doing
that,
math,
so,
but-
okay,
That's what
so
we're
we can do
asking.
that. And then of those $200, we'd need to qualify each of those before we would then get any
I think-
public funds
I think
repayment
Amy's
for those
saying
two
it's too late
invoices.
To qualify additional
Yeah.
expenditures.
Yeah, she's saying that they will never be paid.
That's right.
That's what she's saying.
Yeah. That you
different then.
did not qualify for any additional post-election public fund payment.
Okay.
Okay. So.
All right. I think that's clear now.
And so if we do not pay that $909 from what I understand, or if that's not paid, excuse me, what does,
The candidate is personally liable for the final bank balance amount, and the remaining $200, the committee is responsible, which presumably is not in existence at this point.
so, oh, I see. So,
Okay.
and from what I understood earlier with Joe and I talking was that, that all of that needs to be paid before we would run again for,
You wouldn't be
Public office?
eligible for public funds if you had outstanding penalties or an outstanding public funds repayment obligation in a future election. You could still run for office, you just wouldn't be eligible for public
eligible
funds.
for public funds until all of that is,
Yes, a concluding general question that I don't want to ask is that, say, whatever modified amount that you could possibly have in comparison to the $7,000, and then this $900. What is the general custom of a demand for someone to pay this? I mean, I imagine they're not demanded to pay it the next day. What is the what is the routine?
We work with campaigns all the time to agree on a payment plan to satisfy penalties and public funds repayment.
okay. So now that we've talked about the public funds and the penalties, I guess now's the times.
I thought we talked about everything.
We did. So that's what I'm saying. Now that we've talked about both of them,
Yes.
we should circle about to talk about the actual fine on the penalty. Is that what we're going to be moving forward with?
Well, that's what they're going to decide.
We're going to deliberate on that.
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
We've heard all of the arguments. We're going to go into the other room, deliberate. We're going to come back and announce our decision.
Okay.
And then after that, as Joe indicated, if you want to work out a payment plan with the CFP, they will work with you on that.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you all very much. We're going to go into deliberations now. right, we'll resume our meeting. We have on the calendar two candidates, only one of whom appeared today. The other candidate did not appear and is not contesting, but I'll take them both together. And so the proposal for a motion will be as follows. Candidate Carrie Goodman for City Council. There is a recommended public funds repayment of $241. Second candidate, Todd Stevens, candidate for City Council. The board proposes finding the following alleged violations and recommended penalties. One, failing. Sorry, does this remain?
Yeah, that's very different.
Okay, right. Okay. Number one, failing to file daily pre-election disclosure statements, penalty of $100. Two, failing to respond to the initial document request, a penalty of $3,500 for a total of penalties and public funds repayments of $4,509.
You didn't list the
Public funds repayment.
Correct. I'm sorry. Let me do that again. Following violations: one, failure to file daily pre-election disclosure statements, $100. Two, failing to respond to the initial document request, $3,500. In addition, a public funds repayment of $909 for a total of $4,509. I move the approval of these recommended penalties and repayments. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Next on our agenda is a motion which I will make to dismiss a complaint filed against City Council candidate Mel Wymore. Do we have to say anything more about that, Amy?
Yeah, that's it.
No, that's it. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I've recused myself.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, there's a recusal on that matter. And so the motion carries. Next, on the agenda is a vote to ratify the special election public funds payments. Amy, would you fill us in on this?
Thank you.
Board delegated to the chair, and the chair approved to public fund payment for the primary election for City Council District 45. The payments were made on May 31st of $49,628 to Monique Chandler Waterman, and a second payment to her on June 7th of $16,948, and a payment was made to Farrah Lewis on June 7th of $75,308. The staff is asking the board to ratify the chair's approval of those payments.
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. Finally, I will move for us to go into an executive session, and following the executive session to adjourn, as we have no official business to conduct as a result of the executive session. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. We will be going into executive session and thereafter adjourning. Thank you all very much.